on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him on, the babe, the Son of Mary. While I see in such mean estate, where ox and ass are feeding, good Christian, free for sinners here, the silent word is pleading. Nail, spear shall pierce him through, the cross be borne for me, for you. Hail, hail, the Word made flesh, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh. Come, peasant king, to own him, the King of kings. Salvation brings, let loving heart enthrone him. Raise, raise the song on high, the Virgin sings her lullaby. Joy the gloomy clouds of night, and death's dark shadows put to flight. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. O come, desire of nations bind, in one the hearts of all mankind. Oh, bid our sad division cease, and be yourself our King of peace. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight. Glory stream from heaven afar. Heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon
To do Candles Tell the Christmas Story. So if you've never been involved in that, I hope the Lord blesses you with this. So in about a minute or so, we're going to turn all the lights off. So you have your small children there. Make sure you keep your hands on them, watch them. And so as we come here tonight, we once in a while we'll do Candles Tell the Christmas Story. It's very basic. It's very simple. It just gives us the message by candle. With all the wonderful things that take place in our lives, especially during Christmas time, we have friends, families, there's dinners, there's decorations, there's like displays everywhere, there's a million I call holiday movies. You seldom see a Christmas movie, but there's a lot of holiday movies, and I enjoy a few of them, to be honest with you. But of course, Christmas from the Word of God is different than Christmas from the world that we celebrate. And so tonight, I just want to take the time to share with you guys what the Scripture says. You know, this is the first year I turned my radio off. I didn't listen to one message on Christmas this year because every year I hear about 30 of them. The same thing over and over and over. And this year I decided I'm not going to listen to anything. So the only message I heard was Pastor Ben's messages on Christmas. So I feel blessed this year because it's like new again. So let's get the lights turned off, Larry, and we'll go from there. So it's going to get a little dark, so don't be startled. The lights will come back on for a minute here. So our first candle represents Nazareth. And some of you know Nazareth as the city where Jesus grew up. And so this city of Nazareth is a place of his upbringing. So in Matthew chapter 2, I'm going to do Luke first. Sorry, Linda. Luke chapter 1, verse 26 says, Now in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth. And so there's a whole bunch of verses about the prophecy of the Messiah coming and all that that's happened. But for me, it's like this is where it starts. This is where the angel shows up. This is where Mary's at. This is where Joseph is at. And so Nazareth is sort of the starting point for the candle service. So he came to Nazareth, and that's where it puts in motion the events that are going to take place over the next 9 months and then ultimately to the crucifixion. But that's what Nazareth is. So then in Matthew chapter 2, verse 23, we are told, And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be a Nazarene. So at the end of the story, Jesus, after coming back from Egypt, he goes back to Nazareth and he lives there. So Jesus grew up there until his manhood. And it was here that he started his public ministry in the synagogue. Of course, he was rejected by his own people. They were offended by him. They even wanted to cast him over a cliff and kill him because they didn't like what he had to say. In John 1:46, you all know this verse, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And Nazareth, the reason why, because the city of Nazareth was held in great dispute. It was sad because people said about it that the people of Galilee were rude and less cultivated in class, and they were largely influenced, we're told, by the Gentiles because they mingled with them. And there's all this stuff and speculation and things that they had low moral religious morality and they didn't follow God as close. And there's all kinds of stuff about Nazareth. And so, but it was here in this lonely city, in this city that wasn't considered anything, that Jesus starts, or the Holy Spirit begins to work, and so he comes to Nazareth. So then our second candle represents, and I can't remember the order where my people are, but we'll do this one. The angel Gabriel, because he's the messenger sent by God. He is the one that God sends to Nazareth in order to announce to Mary about her being chosen. So again in Luke 1:26 it says, in the 6th month the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth. So our second candle represents Gabriel, the angel. Now Gabriel, as many of you know, he is a cherubim angel or a high angel. He's not just a regular type angel. He was actually a messenger God sent often to announce things to many people. And so in this case, he had come to Mary, and he comes and tells her that you're chosen to bear the Son and bring Jesus into this world. It was the angel Gabriel who came to Zacharias, as you heard Ben speak this morning, and told him, your prayers have been heard, and that his wife Elizabeth would bear a son. So he brought good news to Zacharias and to his wife Elizabeth. His son is John the Baptist, as many of you know. The angel said to Zacharias, I am Gabriel who stands in the presence of God. So we know the angel Gabriel was someone who actually stood next to God. He was high in command. And he was sent to speak and to bring glad tidings or good news to Zacharias. And of course, good news to us about the birth. It was the angel Gabriel who was sent to Daniel to explain about the book of Daniel, the 70 years that were to come. So the angel Gabriel has been used often to reveal God's plan to people. So then our third candle, which is here, represents Mary. And so we all know of Mary. Luke, again, chapter 1, verse 26, but this time through 28. I'm going to read it together. Again, it says, now in the 6th month, now this is the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy. We just read about Zacharias giving the good news of his wife having a child. So in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed or engaged to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. The virgin's name was Mary. And having come in, the angel said to her, rejoice, highly favored one, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women. So our third candle represents Mary and her role as chosen by God to bear the Son of God and bring him into this world. Now, very little is known of Mary. Mary, what we know from her is her genealogy. It's given in Luke chapter 3. She was from the tribe of Judah, from the line of David. So she's in that line, and the Messiah was to come from the line of David. And while she lived or resided in Nazareth with her parents, the angel Gabriel came to her and told her she would give birth to the Messiah. Now, of course, that would be a shock to a young girl like Mary, because they estimated her somewhere between 13 and 16 years of age. But you have to remember, Mary, being chosen of God, must have lived a very dedicated life. She must have had her parents who brought her up in the ways of God. Now, all of Israel understood that the Messiah was going to come. It had been taught about for decades. Everybody was waiting for that moment. And here the angel comes and tells Mary that she would be that chosen one. And so from that point on, a lot of people know her as the Virgin Mary. I grew up knowing her as the Virgin Mary. The thing is, the Bible doesn't say anything about her. It doesn't never call her the Virgin Mary, but always says to a virgin named Mary, because there was a lot of virgins during that time. But it's just interesting because we know that eventually she becomes the wife of Joseph and has other children later on. Mary was there to see the witness the first miracle, the turning the water into wine. Mary was there at the last after the crucifixion, she was in the upper room, awaiting with the disciples and others for the Holy Spirit, a promise to come in Acts chapter 1, verse 14. So Mary's role is important, and also we know that she most likely became a believer herself, and she was in the upper room in the prayer meeting waiting for the Holy Spirit. And so there's not a bunch to be known about Mary. Our next candle represents Joseph, who is basically the adopted father of Jesus. And so, a lot of people, they say Joseph, the father of Jesus, but we know the Father is God the Father, because Jesus is God manifested in the flesh. In Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 through 25, we would read this. Now the birth of Jesus Christ was as follows. After his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, and before they came together, and then that's having relationships, she was found with child of the Holy Spirit. So we know it was the immaculate conception that had taken place from God. Then Joseph, her husband, being a just man, and not wanting to make her a public example, was minded to put her away secretly. But while he thought about these things, the things of what should he do, because by rights he could have divorced Mary, he could have had Mary stoned. And as he was thinking about these things, we're told here that, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, also of the line of David, do not be afraid to take to you Mary, your wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit. And she will bring forth a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. So you got to think about Joseph here. He's thinking about all this. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Here this girl is telling me that she's pregnant from, an angel came and told her she's going to be pregnant by God. And, what's he supposed to think? What would you think if your daughter told you that? I mean, you wouldn't really think, yeah, right, whatever. What's his name? What's his address? And it says, so all this was done that it might be filled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is translated God with us. Later, John would write that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us as a sign of this, or confirmation of that Jesus had come from God and dwelt with us, so God with us. Then Joseph, being aroused from sleep, did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took to him his wife, and did not know her till she brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Jesus, the name that we all know. What do we know of Joseph? Well, Joseph, the Bible tells us, was a carpenter. He worked with wood. Some believe the word, I think it's tekart, could mean in masonry. Now, when I went to Israel the first year, they showed us Nazareth, and we went from Nazareth a few miles up to a city called Sephora. I think that's how you pronounce it. And in Sephora, there is still a synagogue or small temple, you have it up there, completely made of stone. The walkway's all stone. Everything is stone. And that word tekart means a craftsman, a carpenter, or a stone maker. And so there are some who believe Jesus might have been a stone worker, because that was the occupation of just about everybody in the area. They all would go there to work. But as you know, tables were needed, doors were needed. So, he could have well been a carpenter of wood as well. So we don't want to change that story too much, but that's just information for you. So he was a carpenter. Most likely he worked with wood. And tradition says that he was somewhat of an older man. The scripture we read here says, to a man, not a youth. Remember, in the Bible, a youth is 40 and below, and a man is above that. So we don't know the age of Joseph, only that he was older and not young like Mary. Plus, he was already a carpenter. He wasn't an apprentice. He was already someone doing the work. So he was definitely older from what we know. The scripture also traces his lineage to the house of David. And what we know about Joseph, he's called a just man. Now, other than that, there's not much to know about him. The last time we read of him is when Joseph married Jesus, and the rest of the people went up to the temple for the Passover when Jesus was 12, remember? And they were heading back. Jesus stayed. They didn't even know he was gone until 3 days later, and they realized he's gone. They went and they found him in the temple. Now, how many of you would not know your kids were gone for 3 days? I'm not saying they're bad parents. It's just that they traveled in a caravan. And, you know, everybody's doing everything and having fun, and they're walking and they're talking and they're sleeping and they're eating, and the kids are playing and doing all kinds of stuff. And so anyways, Jesus wasn't there. And when they realized it, they went back, and there he was in the temple sharing the word of God to the elders and blowing their mind at the age of 12. And that's the last time we hear of Joseph. After that, he's not mentioned in Scripture. Just like Mary, there's not a whole bunch about him. And so now our fifth candle we come to is the shepherds. Now everybody knows in the Christmas event, or what we call story, that there were shepherds out in the field. Luke chapter 2, starting in verse 8, going through 12. We read here, Luke chapter 2, verse 8. Now there were in the same country shepherds living out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. Then the angel said to them, Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be the sign to you. You will find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. So the shepherds were shepherding the sheep out in Bethlehem, which is only about 4 or 5 miles south of Jerusalem. The shepherd's duty is a burdensome duty. It's long hours and long nights. First thing in the morning, the shepherds would take their flocks out of the fold, out of the corral, and they would march them or lead them to pastures where they could eat grass and hay, and then get water for them, and watch over them, care for them. They would always be attentive to them, but every now and then a sheep would escape. And when that happened, the shepherd was responsible for the sheep. So he'd have to go out looking for the sheep. He'd go looking for them, he would lead. The Bible tells us that when there's 100 sheep and one goes away, the shepherd would leave the 99 and go after the one, leaving the 99 together until he found it. He wouldn't even rest until he found that, and once he did, he would bring it back. So in those days, it was required for shepherds to be full-time, to be involved in the lives of sheep all the time. And Jesus, we know, is the good shepherd. But these shepherds were out there doing what they were supposed to be doing. They were supposed to be watching the sheep, feeding the sheep, watering the sheep. We have been, the Bible talks about us as being sheep. And just like sheep, we want to wander. We need a shepherd to bring us back. We have Jesus, our shepherd. We have the Holy Spirit who convicts us and guides us, always trying to bring us back to the fold, to the place of fellowship amongst each other. Because alone we don't do well. Sheep are dumb animals. They will just walk over a cliff. They don't know any better. Some of you are married to people who just don't know any better. Right? My wife would say amen if she didn't want to embarrass me. But that's what they do. So there's the shepherds that are out there. And we're told, where did they end up at? Bethlehem, the city of David. That's where Mary and Joseph start from Nazareth. The angel comes, talks to Mary. Joseph, he has to convince him or he's out of here. And then they see the angels, the shepherds are out there, and then they're in Bethlehem. Now in Bethlehem, we're told in Matthew chapter 2, verse 6, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, or Judea, are not the least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you shall come a ruler, a king, who will shepherd my people, Israel. Now, again, all of Israel had been taught since childhood for decades, almost for 4,000 years, since the beginning of Genesis 3. They had been taught about the promised seed. They had had prophecies about a virgin who would have a child. They had been told many things. There were many verses they learned from childhood all the way up. So they were expecting at some point, but they had just finished 400 years of silence. Nothing was said. Nothing was spoken new. And yet they were waiting for this Messiah. I believe maybe many had forgot about the whole thing. Maybe not. Every time they had Passover, they had to think about it. The promise that was to come. And it would be out of Bethlehem, because in Matthew chapter 2 it said, "Oh, you Bethlehem, but you Bethlehem in the land of Judea are not the least among the rulers of Judah, but out of you shall come a ruler." That's what we're told here. Who will shepherd my people Israel. Now, again, I told you Bethlehem is 4 or 5 miles south of Jerusalem. Bethlehem means the house of bread, the one that provides the nourishment. Of course, Jesus is our nourishment. It's in the hill country of Judah or Judea. Everyone could see Bethlehem. You can see Bethlehem for miles, especially at night. It's an isolated community with hills all around it. Bethlehem is the place that we know where the King Saul was anointed in 1 Samuel by Samuel 16, verse 4 to 13. It's where Ruth and Naomi came back to Bethlehem. Remember when Naomi's husband died and then both their sons died, and then Ruth and Naomi came back. They traveled again across Moab all the way into Bethlehem, where they were from. Bethlehem was the place where Rachel had died when they were journeying back from the Exodus. It's where they buried her in Bethlehem on the road to Jerusalem. Bethlehem is well known by people. As well, it's the place that we all know that Herod came and slaughtered all the innocent children of 2 years and younger. So it was a place of hardship and pain as well. Bethlehem is a part of the story because it's where the birth takes place. I went too fast. We're going to pause and let the worship team do 2 songs. I was supposed to put them in the middle and totally went by it. So let's have them do 2 songs. God is good.
I have traveled many moonless nights, cold and weary, with a baby inside, and I wonder what I've done. Holy Father, you have come and chosen me now to carry your Son. I am waiting I am frightened by the Lord I bear in a wilderness cold as stone. Must I walk this path alone? Be with me now. Be with me now. Breath of heaven, hold me together. Be forever near me. Breath of heaven. Breath of heaven, lighten my darkness. Pour over me your holiness, for you are holy. Breath of heaven. Do you wonder as you watch my face if a wiser one should have had my place? But I offer all I am for the mercy of your plan. Help me be strong. Help me be. Help me. Breath of heaven, hold me together. Be forever near me. Breath of heaven. Breath of heaven, lighten my darkness. Pour over me your holiness, for you are holy. Breath of heaven, hold me together. Be forever near me. Breath of heaven. Breath of heaven, lighten my darkness. Pour over me your holiness, for you are holy. Breath of heaven. Breath of heaven. Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how tidings tell. Oh, come to us, abide with us, our Lord Emmanuel.
We now come to our final candle, the candle that represents Jesus Christ, the birth. As you can see, it's a red candle because he's pure and he sacrificed his blood on our behalf. It's a candle that, if we didn't have that candle, the truth is we wouldn't have Christmas. Because without Christ, there is no Christmas. In Luke chapter 2, starting in verse 1, we read this. And it came to pass in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This census first took place while Cornelius was governing Syria, so all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth of Judea, into the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, who was with child. So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them at the inn. And I'm going to stop there. Our seventh candle obviously brings to us the birth of Jesus Christ. And you know, all week I've been thinking about that. I actually have a message that we're going to do next week as I think about who Jesus is in my life. And I hope you're thinking about who he is in your life. You know, Israel was waiting for the Messiah to be born. They were waiting for a ruler and a king who would conquer Rome. They were waiting for someone who would put them back on the right path. And when Mary was brought forth as the chosen one, and people began to hear, like the shepherds who heard, and they went to see because they believed. They knew what they were waiting for. You know, I know Christmas can be hard for some people. I know it's hard to be excited sometimes because there's some sadness and pain in our lives. But something dawned on me this week as I was thinking about Christmas and just me. And you know, Christmas is a time of remembrance of why Jesus came. And honestly, I don't think you can get excited every Christmas for the same thing over and over. But I do believe this, because I know it's what's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to every one of you if you're born again Christian. The day you got saved, that was the day all this became real. That was the day that you were so excited. That was the day you realized you were forgiven of your sin, and you were washed, and you were cleansed, and that God had a plan for your life. As Jeremiah said, I know the plans I have for you, saith the Lord. It's the day that we recognize as the time of the forgiveness and change of our lives. Last week is when it hit me. We were gone in Madras to see my son David. And I looked at Diana. I said, you know, today's been 36 years I gave my life to the Lord. And it just started a whole bunch of things in me last week when I started thinking, you know, Lord, had it not been for you, I'd be in prison. You know, Lord, had it not been for you, I wouldn't have my wife and kids and grandkids and the people that I know, the jobs that I've held and the friendships that I've made. it wasn't for Jesus, my life would just be lost and empty like it had been before he came to me. And so it was like that day, 36 years ago, in the county jail, it all came alive. The lights lit up. Everything became real because he was real in my heart. And he's the only one that can be real. See, going to Nazareth or Bethlehem will not save you. The angel Gabriel cannot save you. The shepherds cannot save you. Mary cannot save you. Joseph cannot save you. The only one who can save you is Jesus Christ. One who loves you more than anybody in this entire universe is Jesus Christ. Jesus said, when he was speaking to us, in John 8:17, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. Jesus said he is the light of the world. He is the only light of the world. There is no other light. That's what he's saying. There is no other light. People can claim all kinds of different religions and different things that are out there, but he said, I am the light of the world. Not that I'm one of the lights, I am the light of the world. Then he says, he who follows me shall not walk in darkness. The day you met Jesus Christ is the day you walked away from darkness. For me, it was 36 years ago in the county jail. I don't know where you met Jesus. I don't know what day it was. You might know, but that's the day that darkness no longer had control of you. We no longer walk in darkness, but have the light of life in us. We have the light of Christ in us, because Jesus is the light of the world. And he says to us that when we have him, we have that light. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 14, Jesus said this to his disciples, and he's saying it to us. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket. Can you imagine me putting this under here? What do you think is going to happen? It's going to catch fire at some point. You can't put it under a basket. It'll burn up. Nor do they lay a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. The light illuminates. We have one candle here, representing Jesus Christ, the light of the world. But he also said, you know what? You're the light of the world. You're the light of the world. I want the ushers to come forward. Now, we're going to light candles right now. If you have small children, you can go. Make sure you watch them. Take care of hair. Hair burns fast. Do not turn behind you to light someone's candle. The usher is going to come on the end and just lean forward and light it, and then kind of hold your candle up a little bit, because what Jesus says here is, you're the light of the world. He's also saying we are to shine as the light of the world. It started with him. Let's go ahead and light them, Larry. I didn't get a candle, so go ahead. The worship team will play right now as we do this, and then we'll conclude.
The prophets foretold of a glorious day, how the promised Messiah would come, born by a virgin of humble estate. The day of atonement when dawned, the people rejoice as deliverance nears, a lowly babe sent to save. immortal God now is incarnate man. The advent of grace is displayed. Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Glory to God, glory to God in the highest. The nations can see to the kingdom at hand as the great throne of David is claimed. The high priest has come to atone for our sin. On Christ all our sins were laid. The Father is pleased by the work of his hand, finding joy in his sovereignty. Emmanuel comes now to reconcile man. With angelic procession we sing. Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Glory to God, glory to God in the highest. Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Glory to God, glory to God in the highest. Fall on your knees now and worship the King, who in our depravity came. Lift up your eyes to the wondrous light that all generations proclaim. Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Glory to God, glory to God in the highest. Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Glory to God, glory to God in the highest. Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Glory to God, glory to God in the highest. Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Glory to God, glory to God in the highest. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us put our hands together.
Go tell it on a mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. While shepherds kept there watching o'er silent flocks by night, behold the heavens opened, there shone a holy light. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. The shepherds feared and trembled when low above the earth rang out the angel chorus that hailed our Savior's birth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Down in a lonely manger, our humble Christ was born. He brought us God's salvation, that blessed Christmas morn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. One more time. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Our Jesus Christ is born. Amen.
Thank you for not putting your hands.
So now you know the message and what God requires of us, and that is to go tell other people. Just as the lights were lit from one to another, and the light, and now we illuminate even brighter. And now I can see you guys. I couldn't see you before. And that's what the Lord wants us to do each and every day. And we are blessed to have a celebration of Christmas every year where people are looking for something. And guys, you and I have the answer for them, and it's Jesus Christ. Amen? Remember, if this didn't happen, you wouldn't have Christmas, and you kids, you would have no presents. So, when you leave here, Merry Christmas to you guys. I hope the Lord provides everything you need in your life. Not what you desire, but what you need. And I pray that when He opens the door and someone asks, what is Christmas about? You can tell them. That God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Now maybe you don't understand this whole thing about God in sending His Son. In a simple phrase, I'm going to tell you something. God created man in His image, and He created him to love Him, and He desires to love us. But sin came in because of the devil and destroyed a lot of that, what God had done. And people are confused and mixed up today because of sin. But God has sent His Son to deliver us out of darkness and to bring us into the light. Amen? God bless you guys. Father, we thank You for Your message tonight. The illustration of candles that help us remember what Christmas is, Lord. Father, I do want to thank You right now for the food that's been brought. We pray that You would bless it, and You would bless the time of fellowship with each other. And even this week, Lord, as Christmas is a few days away, when we are with our family and our friends and maybe at a co-worker and a party at work, that the message would go out, that we would remind people of Your love to us and Your mercy to us. So thank You for tonight, Father. Thank You for everyone who came. May you bless each and every one of them, Lord. May their hearts be filled with you and your love. In Jesus' name, amen.